Good evening, everyone. CS Educators Hub welcomes you to the class of Sociology Optional. Uh, this is a brief introduction about me. I'm Priyanka Sharma, and I'll be taking up your course on Sociology Optional for your civil service preparation. In today's discussion, we'll be discussing about a very important social thinker which could not be neglected in your preparation of civil service. Karl Marx neglect কৰিব পৰা নাযায় কাৰণ কার্ল মার্ক্সৰ বহুত বেছি প্ৰশ্ন আমি পাওঁ paper 1 we get a lot of question of Karl Marx in paper 1 and a very in-depth grip of Karl Marx is extremely needed when we prepare ourselves for the sociology optional. So beginning with the idea, we can say that Karl Marx is someone who belonged from the conflict school. Okay, he is considered to be the conflict theorist. Conflict theorist boli kowa jay. Itia conflict theorists kotha kobole gole, if we say about conflict theorist, the ideas of the conflict theorist or the conflict perspective was very much new to the 19th century European society, because at that point of time, functionalism or positivism was something which was holding a lot of grip, or we can say was occupying the whole of the European society of the 19th century. 19th century European society con functionalist or positivist ideas are gutei khon jorito hoi asile, and they are extremely the society they had a very defined idea of how society was functioning. So the functionalist and the positivist emphasize a lot on the consensus. Okay, that means how unity can be built up, how harmony can be understood, how social integration is necessary for the society. So that was always the perspective of the functionalist and the positivist idea. So at that point of time, when conflict theorists came up, Marx was the first social thinker who gave this perspective. Okay, Marx was the first social thinker who focused on the idea of conflict and stated that conflict is someone which is necessary for social evolution or social change. সমাজখনত পৰিৱৰ্তন আনিবলে, সমাজখন আগুৱাই লৈ যাবলে যে কনফ্লিক্ট বা আমি যোনটো কওঁ যে যুদ্ধ মানে ideological conflict is something which is essentially important when we say about the development of the society or the evolution of the society. Okay, so Marx concentrated on that idea. Marx hey ideology to hey perspective to khub follow korisile, and he was someone who said that dialectic materialism is necessary for the history. Okay, history, that means for the development of the society, the evolution of the society can be understood through dialecticism. Okay, now dialecticism boli kobole gole, dialecticism is an idea which he took from Hegel. Okay, Hegelian's idea of idealism. So he drew the idea from Hegel's concept and gave the idea of dialecticism. Dialecticism means there is one thesis. Okay, that means there is one pole and there is another opposite pole, an antithesis. Okay, so a thesis is there and there is another opposite entity, eta opposite entity eta ase, or he entity to koa jay antithesis. That's an antithesis. The antithesis is absolutely opposite to the thesis. Okay, and that thesis and antithesis always comes in conflict with one another. He je duta beleg juntu pole ase, he pole dutar majot hodai eta disturbance create hoi thake. There is always a conflict that goes on between those two poles. Okay, between the thesis and the antithesis. Now in the same idea was taken by Marx. Marx idea he took up and he tried to understand the industrial society, the European industrial society, from that dialectic context. So he said that the whole European society was divided into two poles. Okay, two concepts. One is the haves, okay, the dominant upper caste, or sorry, the dominant upper class, okay, which he referred to as haves, and the subjugated lower caste class. Lower means the subjugated working class. Okay, working class was referred to as the have-nots. Okay, so there was this haves and the have-nots. Now when we write it from the exam perspective, when you are writing it in the exam, it's better not to use words like haves and have nots. It's preferable to use the exact words which Marx used. Those are bourgeois and the proletariats. Okay, so we'll be discussing about that in details. So talking about the conflict school. Now, when the 19th century conflict school started, that after that, Marxist ideas were taken to next form of elaboration. Marx's idea kinik ako beleg eta form of elaboration of loi gol, and those elaboration was referred to as the Frankfurt School. Okay, Frankfurt School, also said to be the critical school, the neo-Marxist school, and these are some of the thinkers. There is Theodor Adorno, Marx Horkheimer, Habermas. These people belong from this neo-Marxist or the critical school. Now, if we talk about the ideas of Marxists, you cannot say that you will need Marx only as a social thinker. Marx was a great influencer in sociology. Okay, these small ideas will give you a very elaborative content to your answer. These small concepts, like horu concept, Ralph Dahrendorf's ideas, Pierre Bourdieu's ideas, Wallerstein ideas. If you want to write those ideas, these concepts, Dahrendorf, Wallerstein, these are not directly asked in your syllabus. UPSC syllabus or directly a concept ketar ba ekhethokolor kotha sudha joa nai jodio. These are extremely important. Why? Because if you mention about these people, okay, if you have an idea, if you have your conceptions are clear about these people, it will help you to build a very strong content for your answer writing. Okay, your answer writing will be extremely strong when you talk about these thinkers. Okay, so Ralph Dahrendorf is again a neo-Marxist whose ideas you will need for the power and authority when you have to write about power and authority. Gramsci is again there. So Gramsci's ideas were also influenced by the Marxist ideology. Gramsci is needed in the field of polity. Bourdieu is needed when you study about the culture. So culture again is extremely important when we talk about the syllabus of civil service. UPSC states PCS everywhere. Culture, social change is extremely important. So Bourdieu is someone who's also a neo-Marxist. Again, another neo-Marxist who is extremely necessary is Wallerstein. Wallerstein's ideas you will need in world system theory. In urbanization, you need Wallerstein's ideas. So these are the neo-Marxists. Okay, now if we talk about the concept, okay, the conflict perspective. So conflict perspective, as we begin, as I have already said in the beginning of our discussion, so that Marxist ideas, or we can say the idea of capitalism, was somewhat influenced Marx to write about the conflict theory. So capitalism earlier in the beginning of European society did not gain much prominence. Capitalism was something which was not that much studied or was not that much was occupied a lot, didn't occupied a lot of attention. Even basi attention poa nasile European society thinking or thought process to at that point of time. But it was through the ideas of the Marxist or through the ideas of Karl Marx, a new school was being developed. Okay, and those school, they are extremely radical in their approach. Khub radical asle teolok nijor approach. They were very much confined about the conflict. They were very much confined about the ideas of the thesis and the antithesis, that how two opposite things exist in the society. Kaise do opposite poles exist karte hain society mein, and how those comes in conflict and produce something which is necessary for the evolution of the society. Okay, so like I said, you can get in touch with us in this particular course through the Educators Hub. Okay, the course fees is extremely low as compared to the content that will be given to you. So there will be 100 hours online class that we will be taking. This online class would be an interactive one. Okay, this whole course will include the study material, daily answer writing practices would be there. Okay, at the end of every class, at the end of every session, we would be giving you questions. You have to give us the answer writing practice would be done. Once the questions were given to you all, you can attempt those. You have to write those answers. You have to give us back. We will evaluate those answers. And on every weekend, that means on Sundays, we will give a personal review of all the answer writings that are being done by you. যিমানখিনি answer writing কৰা যাব আপোনালোকৰ দ্বাৰা সেইখিনি আমি গুটেখিনি evaluate কৰি আপোনালোকক আকৌ হেতুৰ বিষয়ে review দিম. So in that case we'll have a detailed form. We are not only focusing on clearing of your concepts. Concept clearing is extremely important. Along with that, we will be giving you all sufficient content. I mean, sufficient content dim so that your answer becomes very much content oriented. Your answers become absolutely full, and so you can get prepared for the answer writing as well, which turns out to be a main difficulty. Khub eta dangor difficulty hoi jay answer writing practice or materials dia is not sufficient. So along with that, the contents will also be shared, and along with that we'll be doing answer writing practice after every session. So you can get in touch with us. Contact number is given. Along with that, the mail ID is also provided. Now, going back to the concept of Marx. So Marx, this particular idea is absolutely important. Historical materialism. This question, or we can say this particular concept, you will need every now and then in every form and structure. Jikono form structure of a particular concept to be important, because this confines a very vast part of your paper one. Paper one of Marx by historical materialism kotha kobole gole eta khub dangor contribution, eta khub dangor Marx eta hold kori rakhe. Okay, so going to the idea of historical materialism. So when we say about historical materialism, Marx is of the idea. Marx wrote about this particular idea in the book Contribution to the Critique of Political Economy, 1895, this book was published. Now always remember, when you are writing about any particular concept, je concept or bikhoy likhibol noloisa kyo, always try to fetch it, always try to attach the name of the book where this conception is being discussed. Okay, this will give the examiner a good grip that you have a clear idea of the concept to bikhoy je knowledge ase candidate jonor, it gives a very clear idea to the invigilator or to the examiner. Now, going to the idea of historical materialism. Now, he said that Marx koisile that the whole society, the whole European society, from the conflict perspective, he realized that the whole society is ultimately dependent on materialism. That means the center of the European society, center of the European industrial society is matter. That means capital. And that capital always divides the society into two groups. We have already discussed, to the bourgeois and the proletariats, the haves and the have-nots. And in that context, he said that this is the polarization of the classes. So there is bourgeois, there is petty bourgeois, and there are proletariats. Okay, now he said that in the society, in the European society, there is always the economic infrastructure. Now, what is this economic infrastructure? Economic infrastructure is actually the capital. Okay, the group of people who have the capital in their hand, the group of people who have all the means of the process of production. They hold the whole of POP. POP to apply to hold correct. The process of production is being controlled by that particular group. And who are they? They are the capitalists or the bourgeois. Okay, so that forms the base of the European society, and he referred to that to be the economic infrastructure. So Marx said the capital or the capitalist or the bourgeois group to be the economic infrastructure. And over that economic infrastructure, he said that there is the social superstructure. Now, what is the social superstructure? The social superstructure consists of everything else which is needed in the society. Society aru jiman khini beleg structure or dorkar thake ba beleg institution or dorkar thake, wo sab kuch, wo sab institution, wo sab structures aa jata hai in social superstructure. That comes in the social superstructure. So we have family there, we have religion there, culture, law, economy, everything is there in the superstructure. But as he said, the base, that is the economy, is the infrastructure. The capital is the infrastructure. So this is something which is being discussed. So there is the modes of production. How the modes of production is there? How the modes of production are related? They are men-on-men relationship. That means either the relationship between one man and the other man, one individual and the other individual, one individual who is the bourgeois and the other individual who is the proletariat. Okay, and men and thing. That means bourgeois relationship to the capital and the proletariat's relationship to the wages or to the labor that he is rendering for the process of production. And this is the whole systemic view of the whole European industrial society. Now, going to the economic infrastructure. So when we say about the economic infrastructure have the process of production and the relation of forces of production and the relation to production. So what are the forces of the production that is needed, and what is the relationship of the production? How the individual, that means how the bourgeois are controlling the forces of production and how they are controlling the relation to the production. That means how they are related to the process of production. This as a whole contributes to the econo-social superstructure. That means Marx is of the idea that the whole capitalist society is only guided by the economy or the capital. So that is the conflicts perspective, or we can say the idea of the Marxist concept of the process of production or the historical materialism. So he said that history can be determined only by matter. Okay, so this is something which I have already discussed with you all. So in details, everything is being provided. Do contact in this particular number. Feel free to mail. There will be individual mentoring. Okay, personal mentoring will also be there. So we will try to give you a very holistic idea. We'll try to prepare you in every perspective for your civil service sociology optional. Okay, now let's go to one question that is being asked this year in your state's PCS. Okay, this question is again related to Karl Marx and again related to the idea of historical materialism. The question goes this way: Marx's conception of alienation in the present day matter. Okay, so alienation, like I said, it is something which is an important concept, okay, related to the process of production. So you all remember I discussed about how process of production is relating men to men and men to thing. This is something which we have discussed. So this particular concept gives the idea of alienation. Okay, now going to this idea of alienation. So when we say that the people are just related, the human beings, the individuals of the European industrial society are just related to the modes of production or the process of production by only two ways. Okay, what happens? They are related only by the form of their labor, how much labor they will render in the process of production. Now that labor again gives them a form of alienation. Alienation means a form of being an alien. Go by the literal term. The word says A-L-I-E-N, alien. Who is an alien? Alien is the one who does not belong to this particular world. So when a laborer is just related to the process of production, okay, and with the growing form of alienation, with the increase in the time that he is contributing in the process of production, with the increased degree of the changing of the modes of the production. So those changing modes of the production and those increasing time factor that the individual is investing makes him an alien. Okay, so these are the dimensions of alienation that is being seen in a capitalist society. So Marx said there is alienation from the process of production, alienation from the product that is being produced, alienation from the fellow workers, that means your co-workers, and at last alienation from your own self, that means your own potential. Now the question that was being asked is how you can relate alienation in the present day context with a suitable example. So we can obviously say that how in a post-globalized society we are being alienated in all these four dimensions. No any dimension is being neglected by us in the form of alienation. Yes, we are alienated from the process of production. We have become machines. We are working in our everyday life. Individuals are working for like 12 hours, 18 hours, but yet they are not that much attached to the process of the production. They are not that much attached to the product. They don't know what they are doing. So if you see, the similar setup of the industrial society could be understood in a post-globalized society of today's time. We are working, we are contributing to our labor, but at some point of time we don't feel connected to the labor that is being done. We are running out of time. We are feeling shortage to get communication with the fellow workers, to cohabitate with the fellow workers or with the family members or with the friends. We are running short of time. We are at the end of the day, we are feeling a sense of normlessness within ourselves. That means we ourselves are not being able to connect with the potentials, our own desires. So these are ultimately alienating us. Now, in this context, in this particular question, one more thing could be mentioned is that the new form of culture, that is the work from home culture, which is being developed as a form of informal sector also. Okay, work from home, development of a work from home as an informal sector is also contributing to this process of alienation. So that point can also be mentioned in this particular question. Okay, so this is overall the idea of historical materialism. This is the overall idea of Marx. I hope to get in touch with you all in the next coming classes. Thank you.